Hello and welcome to Wholeness, a Quantum Experience. We're your hosts, Shannon, Ledford, and
Ava Adinolfi.
We're getting better at that.
We are.
And today we're going to talk about God.
Yeah, so I wanted to have an exploration around it.
Hold on.
Oh.
Don't turn away. It's okay. It's going to be fine. We're just going to talk about God.
Yeah. No, really don't turn away, because the conversation was inspired. So on this bed, maybe a week ago actually, I decided I wanted to, well, because I love using the word God, but I also notice that I sometimes feel hesitant about it because I know that I used to have a lot of trouble with that word. Like
yes, me too.
Had a lot of stuff wrapped up around it. And then also I know that other people, or I assume that other people are going to impose their stories and then make assumptions about me because I use that word, the word God, and assume that maybe I'm religious or something like that. And I'm not, which is fine. You're allowed to be religious. You be whatever you need to be. But I guess I'm just like not wanting people to make assumptions about my beliefs based off of using a word. So I went through this like reflection process on the bed and just sort of looking, because I don't know about you, but I've always been interested in religion, not as religion itself, like being religious, but like the history, the spirituality behind it, the connection
of it, how it spiritually plays out.
Yeah, like I remember,
yes,
if anything, and I didn't grow up very religiously. I did when I was in middle school. My mom decided to become a born-again Christian and did become pretty religious, and I was like, this is the worst time ever. I'm like a teenager, I'm hormonal, like I don't want to be a Christian. But also I had a really close friend who was Jewish, and like I would always like open up her books to try to like learn and just, like I was just fascinated by it. And also like 9/11 happened, and then so I got really curious about, Islam and like, because all of these religions have some core similarities, especially around the teachings of love.
Well, and they all birth geographically from the same region as well.
And so it's just fascinating.
At least those three that you've mentioned, right? They birth from the same geographic spot. But really, we're not talking about religion.
We're not. No.
We're talking about God.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I grew up Catholic. And then my mom moved away from the church when I was in the teen years you're talking about. My mom moved away from the church.
Nice.
My mom in particular. And so, so we grew up Catholic in an Italian family. And because my mom moved away from the church, we sort of I pushed that all out, and I was like, I don't want God looking on messing with, like, that doesn't make sense to me. None of it made sense to me the way it was presented to me growing up. And so, but when I did ancestral medicine training and got in relationship with my ancestors, they revealed God to me in ways that is so beautiful. Like what God is and how God or the divine is just woven into everything and into each of us, and how to get in deeper connection relationship to that. And during that time, I met my friend Lindsay Sudeikis, and Lindsay had been a Catholic nun. And she still was going to church and all of these things, but she understood the mysticism that underlies the church. She understood it. She understood the love of God at such a deep level. And even the mystical power and of the church and the ritual of it, like the mystical ritual that like was really the roots of this thing of Catholicism. And when she opened me up to that, I was able to let go of a lot of my stories around it.
Yeah. And I remember when that was happening, I remember I felt like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. And then you shared was it The Way of the Rose?
Yes.
And I read that. And that, just things started to trickle down and
The Way of the Rose by Perdita Finn and God, his last name's Stan. I think it's Michael Stan. It brought the Rosary back, but it brought it back in this fully ritualized, mystical way. And I know there's controversy around that too, but it brought a Rosary practice. My personal practice around the Rosary just helped deepen my relationship with God and with my ancestors. Because again, I've got all these Italian ancestors. I've got 3 lines from Italy that go back to Italy. And it was profound and amazing.
Yeah, no, I have definitely enjoyed praying the Rosary, and I would actually say my connection to the Rosary, while I also have ancestors that are Italian, mine tends to go on a different lineage that feels like it's from France. I don't actually know that,
but the Rosary would have been in recent too, but.
I want to go back a little bit though.
I just want to say one thing. I actually can't find my rosaries right now.
Oh, right.
I literally cannot find them. I went to look for them over the last 6 months and they are nowhere to be found. None.
Oh, something else that's interesting about just
they'll come back when I'm meant to be doing the rosary. Just for the record.
Praying the Hail Mary for me, a lot of times if I get up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep, I'll pray the Hail Mary. I don't know why. And or if I have a song in my head and I feel like there's this like programming happening, I'll also pray the Hail Mary to try to
I actually
delete that.
Pray it in Italian.
Right. Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
So I wanted to go back. I mean, I have some other things that I wanted to share, but I remember, if you're okay with sharing it, there was this moment that your daughter asked about, I think, going to church. And I just really loved what you said to her. I don't know if you feel up to sharing that.
So she was 4 and I was in ancestral medicine training and we were driving to preschool. And she said to me, she was asking just about like church and like why we didn't go to church. I said, well, where are you hearing about church? She's like, I don't know, I'm a friend. And I said, well, we don't go to church, but I have a really deep communion with God, particularly through our ancestors. And so every time we are with our ancestors, every time we're in ritual, every time we pray to them, that's God. God is in every moment of our lives. And in that moment, I knew that God was in every moment of my life and that it was only me that had to be cognizant of that and share that with her. At which point she said to me, Mom, the ancestors love me best. And I said, yep, great. And that was the end of the conversation, right? Because at 4, she was done. She was like, oh, good. I got, that's exactly. She was teaching me, just in case anyone was, wondering if I got that or not. I absolutely did. Interestingly, to finish that story, she got into the car that afternoon from preschool and said to me, Mom, some of the ancestors love you best. And I said to her, yeah, honey, that's right. She said, because I said, well, how do you know? And she said, well, some of them are with you and some of them are with me. I don't talk to them at school. Probably for the best. And I said to her, yeah, that's right. Because some of our ancestors have the tools and the knowledge to help you the best right now. And others have the tools and the knowledge to help me the best right now. Yeah. And what all of them are bringing us to, at least in my experience, is closer in connection with God within ourselves.
Yeah. It's just one of those channels, just like the bed can be a way to access God. People who experiment with plant medicine, that's a way to access God. Meditation, oracle cards,
you have to be really clear that whatever's in front of you as the way for in this moment is the way.
Yeah.
Like the rosary was a way at one point for each of us. It's not in this moment.
And also, I want to just throw it out there too. You don't need anything other than you to access God.
100%.
But just some of us, it's just helpful to have that bridge to get there.
I needed it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us do.
No, agreed. But I also just, want to point that out there. And I think too, the the way that things are evolving so rapidly, like, and goddesses too, right? There's just so many avenues. But yeah.
This all comes actually, that story comes a little bit full circle because, you know, we experienced Hurricane Helene about 6 months ago here.
Mm-hmm.
And so around our home, the trees came down in a U around our house, like literally like this. And no trees hit our home. And my father said to me about 2 or 3 weeks after that, "Are you going to church again? Because God's looking out for you." And I said to him, I said, "Daddy, listen, I have a very deep relationship with God that doesn't have anything to do with going to church."
Yeah.
But it was just fascinating that he felt it. He knew. I felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And God, and this is where I want to backtrack a little bit. Part of what we're getting at too here in our transition and our understanding of God is that God is just God.
Right.
And when I think back to when I struggled with using that word, God was not just God. God was this man in the sky who was oppressive and fear-based, and, you know, like his...
You had to confess all your sins to him.
It just wasn't... It didn't feel good.
It was also outside of ourselves.
It was, yes, exactly. It was outside of ourselves. And actually, the next time that I felt, I don't even know exactly what I want to say here, other than for a short time, I was following Nicole Daedone of One Taste, and I went to a workshop in San Francisco. So
we were friends then.
Were we? Okay. And at that workshop, she said, and by the way, there's a Netflix documentary and some cult suspicion there, and there were probably some not great things happening, and that doesn't take away from the beauty of some of her teachings. And one of her teachings, one of the things that she said, and maybe it wasn't even a teaching, it was just an observation, but like, and it just felt like this new perspective that I had never thought of that just really helped me. And she said, God is in everything. And that just like blew my mind a bit, because again, God was this man in the sky who was mean and oppressive, right? So like, and then when I thought about
watching your every move to keep a tally,
judging you, and you're gonna get into heaven or not, right? Like, and then when she brought the perspective that God was in everything, everything, I just was like, oh, like it changed everything for me. And I don't know that that's when God became okay for me, but it gave me this new lens and this new perspective that much more closely mirrors the way that I experience God now.
It feels like it opened the door to that bridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
That had been closed. And that's, I would say Lindsay did that. Lindsay Sudeikis did that for me too. She like opened the door and was like, you know, it may not be all that you have put on it.
Well, not exactly. And I guess that's what I'm really getting at here is like,
I
gave God a story and a mask that was not God. And now God is just God. And God is everything. You know, like the holy mystery is everything. And so there's this neutral, if not love, when I talk about God or think about God or whatever it is, right? And then in thinking about that, I shift over to money, which is something that I'm, you know, really looking at right now. And then when I had a conversation with Money a couple months ago, Money basically told me that it's like, hey, stop putting these masks on me, stop putting these stories on me. And so when I did this sort of backward review of my relationship with God, it became really clear the difference here. And if I can do it with God, I could do it with money, right?
Like with anything.
Yeah. And so it's like money right now for me, you know, equals debt, equals taxes, equals oppression. It equals a lot of things that I'm like not really here for, you know? And so that doesn't really make for a great relationship, if you're wondering.
And you'll find, yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the things that the expectations and the stories that we're putting on stuff is.
Exactly. And so and we do that with people too, by the way, right?
We do it all the time,
Like,
with all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's like if I make a story up about Shannon that all she does is complain about stuff, we're not going to have
Sometimes.
You're human and I love you. But I'm just saying, just as an example, right?
Yeah.
Then we're not going to have a very good relationship and I'm never going to want to talk to her, right? Like that's going to make it hard. But if I see Shannon as a human that I love, who sometimes complains, we can have a pretty good relationship. Please don't feel attacked right now because I did.
I was just going to say sometimes, it was yesterday, I go up and I'm like, I have a complaint. She's like, okay.
Well, at first I was like, is it about me? And then I was like, no, it's not about me. Not that she wouldn't call with a complaint about me if she had one, because she absolutely would. Because
that's the way we work it through.
Yeah.
That's the way we work it through.
But point being, let's not put stories as much as we can and masks on
because there's nuance and there's
So my job is to start taking those masks off and seeing money as money. And if the word God feels hard for you, what stories and identities and masks are you putting on God that maybe don't belong there?
And that goes back to too, like being in the void, being in the quantum field, getting those part of those masks is the static of not having the connection to God, of not having this free flow relationship with the void and the quantum field. Like it's all of those things.
And when you go in the quantum field, often you can get better perspective. You can start to see around and see like, oh wait, that is a mask. That's not actually God, or that's not actually money, or that's not actually Shannon.
That's not actually me.
Yeah, that too. All of those things. And so then it's like you start to parse out the truth, and you can even, I don't want to get into political discussion, but you could even apply that politically, right? We're putting a lot of responsibility and different things on political figures, and we have a lot of stories about what's right and what's wrong that I think is getting in the way of the truth. No matter what side you're on, by the way, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And I think actually Mary Lynn said it best, the scripts have to play out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how much
am I going to suffer while that script, how much am I going to open up to suffering myself while those scripts are playing out? And if your choice, friends.
And if you're suffering, you're likely giving too much power to those scripts and those people and the masks that you're putting on them. We don't know these people as human beings. We know them as a figurehead. Or a political party, or the decisions that they've made that the media has shown us that they've made, more importantly. Totally. Like there's so much else happening. And so it's just, where can we remove the masks and see what's behind the mask? Like what's really true?
And we both use God, but we also use the divine creation, the universe. Like it's all interchangeable. The difference is that God as a word, as a concept, doesn't have this same connotation for us individually as it has in the past.
Yeah.
And then you were kind of speaking to you won't use it because you don't want to make someone else uncomfortable or have, you said
or make up stories about me based off of me using that word. Because I'm a little bit Ava.
Yeah, I'm a little bit past that at this point. And it's like, oh yeah, it's just God.
Well, that's I think part of why I wanted to have this conversation, because I love using the word God and I want to use the God, and I want to be, oh, this is so funny. Because I don't want to be palatable, but I want to be accessible, yes. And of course I'm messing with my mic because I'm really good at that, which is also really funny because when I'm doing frequency marketing with people or any kind of like work with my clients, I'm always like, we're done with being palatable. But I do think there is something different. There is a difference between being palatable and being accessible. And at the end of the day, though, accessibility only works if you're also being authentic. And so what I'm noticing about my own authenticity in this moment is that I'm still sort of navigating how in which I want to express my relationship to God publicly, which is why we're having this part of why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, because it also feels very private.
Yes. It's personal.
And so it doesn't
sacred.
have to be, it's sacred. It doesn't have to be screamed from the rooftops. I love this conversation that we had today.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change my relationship with God,
Yeah, absolutely.
It just is. And so, where are the masks? And it can be anything that you feel like has power over you. Like what masks and what's holding you? And we're no stranger to that. We've all got these things. It's part of the human experience.
Absolutely.
So, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, just if there was any sort of practice here, would just be to like notice in your life, when you start to feel that tension or that cringe in your body. And, around anything, God in particular, but around anything, and just noticing that. And then, taking a moment to find emptiness, find the pause, slow down, and just evaluate like what caused that, and like is that a story or a mask that you've put on? Most of the time it is for me.
Yeah, and I am the queen of like, put the mask on, stick with it, go with it. You've got it. You understand what's going on. Because I'm quick. I'm quick in the mind, but it doesn't. There's moments where that serves me, and then there's definitely moments where it is a complete disservice to myself. Where slowing down, seeing what my triggers are, what's going on here, what masks are playing out, where have we crowded things so there's no room for God?
Yeah. When we're triggered, we can't, there isn't room to have the perspective, the true perspective. We have at that point, you have your trauma goggles on. You can, it's like if you try to read a paper that's this close to your face, you're not gonna be able to read much, right? It's the same thing. So,
I said that to when you have the ancestral ghosts all up in here. Right. It's hard to feel anything if they're in your lap.
Yeah, like you can't see what's actually happening. There's real room. And then, so it's like, so if you can clear out the ghosts, ancestral medicine, highly recommended. Quantum ancestral healing, actually, is what I should say.
Yeah, we're doing it.
And then, like, zoom out.
Yeah, gosh, zoom out.
And feel into what is truth.
And again, most of the people that we're having on this program right now are talking about this. Javara was talking about it too, that funnel that gets really narrow. When she moves up to the top of the funnel, she sees more. It's that. We're there again.
Yeah. Just all different perspectives coming to the same truth.
So we welcome you to continue to deepen in your relationship with God.
Or whatever word fits for you for right now, because that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I actually, last thing I want to say, there was a point where divine actually, like someone was using that in a session with me, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. Which, thinking back, I'm like, how do I not know what that means? But it didn't resonate. It didn't make sense for me.
So do what
makes sense
for you.
Find what works for you and be really curious.
Yeah, that's really great. Find what works for you, and also be aware of what pokes you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Hopefully you did too.
Come back and see us again. We're going to be doing a lot of these episodes. We're going to be bringing on some more guests. So, all right. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.